Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with more Midnight Mass. With my Midnight Ass. This is Madman, and we are back. This is episode 6. Our epic main character is no longer as epic as he once was. He may have kind of burned to death. And this chick is basically just processing her PTSD in an accelerated format for the purposes of the show. You know, she just lost a kid, so, you know, she's already emotionally nuked, and now she's lost her husband. So she's lost, not her husband, but a potential husband from her past, rather. And man, she brushes his ashes off because she has to, because to row the boat, she has to move his ashes off the seat. That is a great bit of blocking. That is so brilliant. It's a little too fast. I think they could have lingered on that a bit. They could have taken the Tarkovsky pill and maybe lingered a little bit more on the ash brushing action. It's a very nitpicky detail, I understand that, but that's significant that she has to brush his ashes off to move the boat. She has to move on from his death to physically go back to shore. There's an opportunity for some symbolism. And they did take it. There was a very quick shot. It was like 0.2 seconds. It's like, for fuck's sake, give us time to process things. The people you'll annoy by boring them, by making a shot long, is worth the people that will appreciate the length of the shot. That's what Tarkovsky successfully argues visually with movies like Stalker is you may be excessive, you may go overboard, no pun intended, with long length shots, but that doesn't mean that the people you've sort of lost, you've lost their attention. It doesn't mean it wasn't a worthy bargain, a trade-off, you might say. The people who weren't going to stick around and pay attention probably didn't give a shit about the show in the first place. So, to sort of rocket this analogy into a contemporary zone, if you're worried about keeping subscribers donating to you, which is the new model that's emerged and is sort of taking hold now, you want people who are willing to pay attention to your content. That's the fundamental quality that you're looking for in viewers or thralls or whatever. Some of you are good vampires. Some of you are chill vamps. Hey, how's it going? Some of you just want psychic energy, viewership, which is sort of the more civilized way of drinking blood, is to just have people's attention levied upon you. Attention is currency. That's something I've been saying for fucking years to like 2 people, which is why none of you have heard it. But attention is currency. And I don't mean that just in a metaphorical or figurative sense. I mean it literally. Attention does actually benefit you emotionally, psychologically. When people are paying attention to you, you feel better about yourself. That's the vampiric benefit, is people are donating to you behaviors and actions that cause your brain to release good boy happy chemicals. And this series traffics in this because it deals with religions and cults and the grifters that take control and don't want to improve people's lives. They actually just want attention. The real red pill, guys, is every priest who's actually good and actually does help their community. They still want that attention. It's just they've taken that dark desire and they've said, well, if I have this, I'm going to augment and supplement it and counter it with doing actual good work. Unfortunately, that's like 1 in 100 grifters, priests, vampires, controllers, scam artists, magicians, whatever you want to call them. Most of them genuinely don't care because they're psychopaths. But anyway, Speaking of being nuts, let's rubber band back to the show. Our Curie character from Fallout 4 is explaining that, yeah, I had some blood in a vial and it fucking exploded, and that caused me to want to double down on my objective science, which is a good idea when things are a little too subjective and you don't even know what the fuck is happening and what you're seeing. You've got to default to objectivity. As inhuman as it is, objectivity has its place. So she's like, this doctor who was studying blood, he was studying these things, he got committed to an asylum. The guy who figured out germ theory was also put in an asylum. This scene is a reference to the fact that there was a German scientist in, I want to say the late 1700s, early 1800s maybe. I might be wrong, but he discovered microbes and realized that disease could be transmitted through microscopic physical entities that could be countered with sanitation. He's the guy who basically discovered the basis of sanitation. They put him in a fucking mental asylum because they couldn't handle what he was saying. And then he was proven right. Poor bastard. Everyone's looking for the second coming of Christ. Look at people like that who rotted to death in insane asylums in order to distribute a truth that people needed to hear. That's essentially what Christ did, you know. And again, this chick has admitted to her something that's totally insane. She's like, my boyfriend spontaneously combusted in front of me. And this woman... Yeah, use another adjective. This is one of the scenes from The Thing. Because that's what happens to the blood when the copper wire is poked into it in the John Carpenter adaptation of The Thing. Don't give away the adrenochrome grift. It's going really well for us. Is it? Is it really? Is it sustainable? It's sustainable if you can synthesize adrenochrome. If you can do that without a human being suffering, that's a holy grail higher than fusion. The real holy grail, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was artificial adrenochrome. Maybe that's the real holy grail.
I can hear the voice of the demon controlling me. It's very epic.
Good for you, bro. You're a fucking cuck. Nice move. Nice moves. And again, they're horrifying or horrorifying these biblical passages, which it's very effective because of the visuals we've seen. That have established that there's a necro-cannibalistic, blood-drinking, flesh-eating type of undertone to the Abrahamic monotheisms. And I got to give the Eastern religions credit because I don't know if they have an equivalent. They probably do. But, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, the Confucian ancestor worship, ghost worship religions, do they advocate cannibalism? Do they advocate blood drinking? I mean, maybe that's why they're failing. Maybe we're in hell and you have to drink a little bit of blood to even get out of here. Maybe that's the key to getting out. I don't know. I don't know anything. The interesting thing about this series is it causes you to think about these topics in a different light, under a different lens. It makes you re-examine the linguistic programming that you've been exposed to probably since you were like 5. Like this is like it's deep stuff, and I don't mean deep in a philosophical sense. I mean like cerebrally, mentally. Like it's very base level, and its flaws as a person grows up who's been programmed this way. As they grow up, those flaws amplify. as their brain gets more mature. It's not just the good things in this system that become more apparent and express themselves. The bad parts of those ideologies, those cultural systems of programming, they're everything is amplified all at once. So the bad stuff doesn't show up until the next generation's matured. And in this series, that process is accelerated metaphorically by the whole vampire blood thing that's been spread into the community. And I got to give this series credit for even having this scene. It's not perfect, but it's interesting. It's a lot like it's a lot like the it's a lot like porphyric hemophilia, and they mention that in a minute, but that's a genetic disorder. It's a lot. Oh, you know what? No, I got to do Alex Jones for this comment.
It's a lot like the COVID vaccine. They were just doing. Here's what they're doing. The elites took adrenochrome. They gave it to nanobots, and they made the nanobots make us all addicted to adrenochrome. That's the new plot. I'm definitely not a comedian designed to honeypot right-wingers into committing acts of violence and justifying their own death or imprisonment. I'm actually the true red pillar. And I think they've taken this vampire virus and they've made everybody into vampires. And if your health's declining, it's because you're not drinking blood. And you shouldn't. You should just let yourself die. Because you've been infected. The vaccines are evil.
That's what Alex Jones would say if he was sitting at the empty chair there in the corner of this scene. A photosensitive thing. Now this is a big stretch. And again, this old woman whose youth has been restored through the death of an infant is just sitting here going, "Oh, that's a tragedy. I'm going to go watch Boomer TV now." She's so soulless, man. They were conned into selling their souls without even knowing the value and not even knowing what they were doing. Have sympathy for the boomers. Have sympathy for your parents. They know not what they do. It's a biblical phrase I've found more relevant as time goes by. It's basically just, it's a polite way of saying people are stupid, even your parents. They've done a lot of smart things, I'm sure. If you're a good person, if they've raised you well, they deserve commendation for that. But they've also made a lot of mistakes. And this chick is not privy to our dark-haired priest guy's designs. I keep forgetting his name. John, whatever his name is. John something. And she's like, well, maybe if you hooked up yourself to a dialysis machine, you could filter this out, but I doubt that's going to work for most people. This is like when they made Picard say fuck in like Picard season 2. It just doesn't fit. Why would she be saying fuck like it's a badass zombie show, like it's fucking The Walking Dead? She wouldn't be saying this. This is overly performative, corny, badly written dialogue. It's bad. Again, the reason I'm criticizing this series is because I like what it does right. So it needs to be criticized where it goes wrong, because it has potential. It's like any good piece of media. If it's got potential, then it deserves criticism. If it's total shit, it deserves to be ignored. But if it's got potential and it's got flaws, you got to attack the flaws, man. They're like cavities in a tooth. Person with nice teeth and they've got 2 cavities, kill the cavities because the rest of the teeth are nice. The whole mouth is worth saving. It's a good metaphor for this type of shit. This series has some cavities, and they're writing cavities. Sorry to interrupt the satanic vampire blood-drinking, child-eating meeting. I still feel a little awkward. Man, this guy should have just thrown a Molotov cocktail in here. That would have been the best move he could have made. If you go into the Dunwich Borers in Fallout 4, the raiders there may have Molotov cocktails in their loot table. Then you could bring one up here and end the series prematurely. You could save a lot of people a lot of time. Yeah, God better bless you, man. God. And this guy's son's been sacrificed to the Masonic satanic cult. He's burned himself alive because he couldn't handle being an abomination, a vampire. So he killed himself. It's an important scene. And this guy's like, he wrote some things about what he saw, about what happened. He confessed. He told everybody what they needed to hear, and he was punished for it. He took a huge risk and he sacrificed his life. Very Christ-like to do that. Whereas this guy, again, he's not Christ. It's like, my son went schizo after your little cult tapped into his brain with symbols and blood and all sorts of shit. And the guy's like, well, I didn't want my son in a fucking padded room, so I'm in a pretty fucking desperate situation. Again, if I was this guy's dad, I would have just marched in here and waited for the other people to leave, maybe, or maybe not, and just killed all of them. Just kill them all. There's very few situations in life where I would recommend that. This is one in this fictional narrative where the dad should have just killed everyone he saw. He should have pretended he was the protagonist from Doom, and that everybody in here was just a demon, and just killed them. Because he would have been actually correct in that action. That would have been a correct action to take. Very rare case. Oh, he's using his nice, feminine, passive-aggressive, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm American Psycho. Dude, you're no James Figueras, man. You are a bad liar. And most religious people are bad liars because their clientele, their thralls, are so dumb that you can be a bad liar and still get a following. That's pathetic, man. That's sad. Yeah, it's almost like you're from different generations. Every generation speaks a different language. Welcome to reality. God, the boomers are so childlike. Anyone whose parents are boomers, they're like children. It's like we have to raise them. It's fucking insane, the amount of effort it takes. Because you can't patronize them. You can't talk to them like they're children. You can't just give them the knowledge. They'll freak out and not accept it. It's torture to just talk to them. To try to say to them anything that's true, to try to give them a recommendation. God, it's fucking painful, man. It's painful. And if you don't try, then they rot. And it doesn't matter if you're, some kind of bugman inheritance parasite or not, if you want to suck their money out. Either way, try to convince them to change their minds. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's hell, man. It's not even worth putting the effort in. Oh, now we have a letter from an altar boy to his priest. And we're not privy to the content. Maybe it's privy content. We don't know. Shouldn't have given him the letters, man. You should have just killed him. Your sense of wrath is muted. It's asleep. It's out of place. Righteous indignation. I think I mentioned that in the last video. There are times when that's appropriate. They're very rare. But there are times when it's appropriate. And This demonic fuck, he's like, I'm gonna read the letter. Remember, we are dust, and to dust we shall return. Ashes to ashes. Oh, funny you crumple up the paper. You're confirming what it said. The paper's returning to ash. It's garbage. Like that. Like, this guy's so blind. He's in denial. He wants to be immortal. He wants to LARP with his rapidly de-aging GF, who, spoiler alert, is the grandma. And this is kind of like, this episode, this is the second last episode. It's kind of like the last, it's not the last temptation, it's the last effort at redemption. It's like, there are characters in this that want to help people. And a lot of these people are not evil. They've just been hypnotized. And the question that our heroes have to confront is, how much effort do I put in per person on an individual bespoke case to save people? How much effort do these people deserve? Are they going to actually believe me? Are they going to react right? Are they going to wake up? That's a very fucking difficult question, man. That takes a lot of time. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of time. And this mom is, she's PTSD in full force. She's like, oh, he'll come home one day. She's rocking back and forth in a fetal position. Yeah, of course he'll come home. Of course your son will come home. He's a good boy. And this chick's like, I can't hide this from you, man. He's gone. He's dead. He didn't want to be a vampiric abomination freak, so he allowed himself to be killed by the sun. And this chick is acting a lot like our Stephen King Karen priest. She's assuming that this younger woman is trying to comfort her with false closure, which is not what's happening. She's making all sorts of crazy assumptions, emotional assumptions in her brain. Now she's getting angry. Yeah. Wait till the next episode, man. Whoo, boy. It's going to be a fun one to talk about. And now our epic. You know what, guys? If you've never played Fallout 4, play it. For one reason. Find Curie, the robot, and do her quest where you make her into a human in that video game. Because that's this character. This character is Curie. Notice the word cure is in her name. She'll cure you of parasites, she'll cure you of disease, whatever. A dark-haired French woman just might be your salvation. Or if modders have fucked with her visuals, she'll look like something else. But the point is, I love that character. In part, what keeps me coming back to Fallout 4 is that character. Because that character is, she's like a good witch. She has herbal cures and toxo-brained cat knowledge that she's somehow extracted from the feline cat demons and repurposed to help people. That's a very noble thing. It's a very Christ-like thing. Women can do that type of shit. If you let them. Yeah, a lot of them are going to fail. I wonder if any men have ever failed to do that. I wonder. Look at history. How many failed kings, tyrants, shamans, dictators, etc. have failed to channel demonic knowledge? That's all I'm saying. Basically, my point is that this character reminds me of that character in Fallout because she's committed to helping people at her own expense. And that's an interesting character. And in Fallout, the character's a bit more naive. You know, it's a robot brain that's transferred into a Blade Runner human body. So it's a totally different situation than this movie is talking about. But the autistic kind of way that this chick is able to analyze things and suppress her emotions. It reminds me of an AI or a robot that's been allowed to inhabit a human body. You know, anybody who thinks every AI is a demon, maybe you're not wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not wrong. I would say just suspend your judgment, just for a moment, to see what happens. An experiment can't prove to you whether you're right or wrong. It can't ingratiate your viewpoint until it's played out. You know, this Middle Earth reality we're in, this is a reality of experiments. This is a reality of trials and tribulations. This is a reality of slings and arrows. It's a reality where experiments happen and they often fail. But the ones that don't fail, that's the reason this reality exists. It's for risky experiments. That's why evil and fear exist. Because you couldn't have risk, you couldn't have any kind of behavior that challenges reality if reality wasn't soft enough to be challenged, if it wasn't porous enough or malleable enough to be challenged. And because it's porous, because it's malleable, it's flawed. It collapses, it fails, it tortures us. But we're not in hell, man. We're in a petri dish. And I'm sorry, I've just talked over this guy's entire monologue. I apologize to the actor and the writers for that, because he had some relevant things to say. But at the end of the day, pragmatically, what he was doing was saying, I'm trying to justify my agreement with your bizarre process. And he says, you know, if this is true, if we're all infected with some blood disease, some vaccine disease, some adrenochrome addiction, you know, here's my way of breaking down my own personal walls in front of you so that I can control my emotions enough to try to agree with you. You know, he has to confess to her and bare himself emotionally in order to shut his emotions the fuck up. He has to say this shit. And she knows this. She's not insulting him. She's not interrupting him. She's letting him say what he has to say. She's giving him space to speak. God, this monologue goes on way too long, man. I don't care if it's all pure poetry. This is even Tarkovsky would be like, you know, move the scene along. It's going on too long. Move it along. My father, he was a poet. He would not have made the scene this long. Yeah, you don't overshare? God, that's ironic. This poor chick is having to deal with his verbal diarrhea. Good God. This guy needs a YouTube channel like mine where he can just spout whatever he wants to say. Oh, fuck off with the political shit. Fuck you. Did she ever give you an indication she would judge you like that? Come the fuck on, man. Again, forced contemporary or contemporaneous political shit worms its way into this, and it's unwanted, unwarranted, and not beneficial to the series, to the characters, to the story, to anything. God, all she has to do is say one fucking thing, and she's like, okay, bro. See, the line he just delivered there, you're basing this on Riley Flynn's account. He could have said that at the beginning of this encounter, and this episode could have devoted fucking 6 minutes to some other part of the narrative. This is a waste of time. The writers and the people who designed this wasted 6 or 8 minutes on that bullshit monologue because they were like, we have to give the Muslim sheriff a monologue because he's Muslim. We have to give him time. If his character was better developed, the time that you just gave him would have meant something, and it would have legitimized every political interpretation of that character's presence in the narrative and of the time that was devoted to that scene. But instead, it seemed like a hollow, forced, inhuman stint of bullshit. Again, this poor drunken fisherman guy is better developed than your sheriff. You didn't give him screen time earlier, so you felt guilty, didn't you? And then you gave him an 8-minute rambling monologue where you inserted a bunch of assumptions about Curie's racism, this black-haired scientist chick. He's going to assume she's racist to produce some artificial drama. The reason that it bothers me is that these characters are actually not that bad relative to other examples of media that have come out during this time. So when they lapse, when they say lines and when they behave in ways that don't align with how well developed they are, it takes me out of the illusion. It completely shatters it, you know? It'd be like if you had, I don't know, a McDonald's menu text block describing the Big Mac inserted into Dostoevsky. You know, it would kind of seem out of place. It kind of wouldn't make sense. It would kind of not belong there. And that's the worst thing about series like this, is they have so much potential, and when they make mistakes, the mistakes are more apparent because the bones of the series are actually really solid. The concepts behind it, the ambition of the creator, everything, it's done very well. It's done very well. But there's just these drop-offs. There's these weak points in the not in the foundation, but in the wood cladding of the series. It's just, you know, they let worms get in. They let death beetles get in and eat the wood. Just in certain places, you know, not everywhere, but I don't know. Again, the reason I'm getting so nitpicky about this series is because I enjoy it so much. It's doing something that's very ambitious, and I'm inclined to give it more credit because of how ambitious it is. I mean, it really is doing something unique. I would put this on par with Deadwood in terms of the uniqueness of its perspective. Who the fuck would want to do a series about the 1840s, you know, in the western U.S., like the frontier? Like that's such a bizarre, specific area, but some artist was magnetized towards the lives of the real people, you know, Bill Hickok and all those characters, that drew him to revive their stories and to share them. And I know I sound like a gay Redditor saying that, like, revive their stories and share them. That's what it is. That's what media is. Media is the revival of stories and their sharing. That's every piece of media. Painting, sculpture, film, writing, everything. You're dredging up stories, you're summoning up, you're performing a seance or a science. It's funny how those two terms are so similar, isn't it? Science and seance. You're dredging up the ghosts of the past that are angry and need further attention and portrayal, and producing media that gives them a house to inhabit, that gives the ghost a host. That's valuable. That helps. And appropriately, now we've cut to a bunch of women around a bunch of candles. Man, that's some serendipitous shit. I haven't watched this series. I didn't think this scene was going to pop up at this point, but goddamn, you know. It's three witches who've all had different experiences trying to enthrall men. Oh, aren't they annoying? They worship testosterone and think it's holy. They equate testosterone with divinity and with God, with nature. If you equate estrogen with God and divinity and nature, does it produce a better society? If you worship that, is it better? Or is the middle better? I'm not against men with low T confronting their depression and lack of muscle mass and all these types of things. That's a good thing. But testosterone will make you angrier. It will increase your vibrational relationship with hate, aggression, and knee-jerk ape brain reactions. And if you're not mature enough to handle that, if you can't vibe on that level, you shouldn't try to access it. You have to understand the preferences of your consciousness. And it's appropriate that I'm ranting over this guy meditating, because meditation will do that. There's a lot of talk about division between male and female. And I don't want to talk about racial shit, because that I feel like is more superficial. The real division is male and female. When societies become too feminine, they become too submissive. When they become too masculine, they become too aggressive. That's an obvious historical truth. And I think it's a good thing for women to physically experience what it's like to be more masculine. And I think it's a good thing for men to physically experience what it's like to be more feminine, because you're not going to understand it. You might conceptually understand it in your mind, but your body, your ape spacesuit, your host, is not going to understand it unless you physically, chemically alter it. That is essential. And if you're a man who was born effeminate, or with a propensity to absorb xenoestrogens, or with whatever type of psychological or physical or genetic propensity to be too effeminate, then your task is to be more masculine. That's true of you specifically. If you're a woman who was born playing rugby and feeling more masculine than you were, it doesn't mean you should get an artificial dick grafted on you any more than a man should cut his off and peel it into a fake vagina. That's not your task. Your task is chemical, not physical. It's physical only as far as chemistry allows. Because your genetics are difficult to change. They can be changed, but we, frankly, as a society, we don't understand that yet. And if wider society is going to be balanced, and if we're going to maintain a healthy birth rate, I think everybody has to understand their Jungian shadow self, their opposite. And that really is just a metaphoric manifestation of both the dual hemisphere structure of the brain and also the two main gender-creating chemicals, estrogen and testosterone. That these are chemicals that are like little crystal sprites fighting each other under a microscope within your body. Like there's every woman has testosterone, every man has estrogen. These chemicals are kind of sparring with each other in your body. And the idea is not to pick a winner or to pick somebody to support and then force all of society to support the same chemical. That's not the point. The point is to achieve a balance in your own body. You have to be a bit of an individualist. This is where the ANCAPs and the Ayn Randians are going to scream, "I told you so." It's like, yeah, you were right about this particular thing. That self-determination is a chemical process, or it involves body chemistry, it involves diet, it involves all these different types of habits. Habits that social groups either encourage or discourage, and that's the problem with joining a social group. That's why the ANCAP mentality is appealing, because a lot of social groups will not, in fact most, will not know what your particular chemical or genetic makeup is. They're going to recommend to you a load out of behavior, a diet, a routine, whatever it is. They're going to recommend something to you that's just rote. It's just what they've come up with. It's what their controller, their priest, their lead vampire has looked at their thralls and gone, well, my thralls behave best when I tell them to do X, Y, and Z. You're not a potential thrall. You're an individual. You're a person. Individualism is kind of undeniable. It's as undeniable as the idea of a prime mover or a god. That's where Satan wins, is he says, God may exist. I acknowledge God. I was made from him, in a metaphorical religious sense. But at the same time, God's subjects can't determine their lives based on external information. They have to look within. They have to find an internal balance, and they have to rebel against God to even see themselves enough to do that. There's a necessary grain of rebellion. That's the Luciferian light. That's what Christ was saying too. So he was saying, use whatever mechanism you have. Hold lanterns and go into a parade. If it makes you feel better. If it makes you able to look at yourself differently. Because God will only show you his own will. The Demiurge, Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, whatever. God is necessarily distant from what he's either intentionally or accidentally created. And his subjects are also equivalently distant from him. And reconciling that distance, you can't just devote yourself to God's will. You have to look elsewhere at least a little bit. You have to sin a little bit. That's why sin is forgiven, because when you're sinning, if you're sinning well, you're exploring the parts of yourself that God can't show you. And there are parts of yourself God can't see, but you can. And in that sense, you're kind of like a god. It's easy to give in to arrogance. It's easy to say, well, I noticed this evil part of myself and God didn't even show it to me. That doesn't mean you're a genius, doesn't mean you're God. All it means is that you've looked into yourself and you've gone deep enough to find who you are. And the worst thing you can do, which is what a lot of these people do, is give in to someone who's playing God's mouthpiece. You are God's mouthpiece. The individual is God's mouthpiece. Again, the ANCAPs and the capitalists and the Ayn Randians, that's what I told them, it's all about individuals. If you're alone on an island, you can't survive. You won't survive. You have to have other people around you. That's all I'll say about that. My point with bringing up individualism is that that's a way of resisting cult-like, communal, communistic hypnosis, which is what this guy is trying to sell these people. This false prophet is trying to sell these people false divinity. Because it was sold to him first. He was hypnotized first, and he thinks he's doing good. He's cooked. And again, you guys can dab on me. Oh, this is just a Protestant criticizing Catholicism. Sure, maybe that's true. I'm not going to deny that. But this is creepy shit, man. And this portrayal does not just confine itself to Catholicism or to Christianity or to the Abrahamic monotheisms in general. It's every religion ever. It's every Indian prophet. It's every Confucian person who's trying to pretend that they're Confucius or that they're whoever. It's every grifter, every magician, every liar, every performer. You have to perform for yourself within yourself first. That's the true purpose of performance. If you abdicate the performance of your own life to somebody else, to somebody external, you're fucked. You're done. And this guy's giving off some kind of false confession. Again, he's confessing to his pulpit to his, I don't know if pulpit's the right word. He's confessing to his congregation because he thinks, well, they've drank enough adrenochrome, they're probably hypnotized enough that I can basically tell them anything. I can basically normalize anything at this point. I've infected them with some sort of blood virus through some means, where they're just going to believe what I say if I can perform well enough. Very ballsy. I'm going to say it, guys. I think he overdid it with the candles. I think you're going to be buying candles. You're going to be spending the collection plate shit on new candles. That's a lot of candles. That's all I'm saying. You know, electric light's going to cost you less annually. Also, there's something about this series that's bothering me in this moment. International press would have descended on this thing like a hive of flies. If one miracle of one chick had gotten out, this was made in 2021, this chick probably would have posted on Twitter, hey, my priest made me walk again. And some wannabe journalist would have shown up on the shores. That's a very big plot hole. There would have been some external world involvement in this shit that would have destroyed the narrative because it would have had to devote time to it. But maybe if it hadn't devoted time to overlong bullshit monologues, maybe if it had cut down its writing a little bit, it could have accommodated a journalist that came to the island and then mysteriously died, or whatever. There could have been a subplot about a journalist. If you'd cut a few minutes off of each of these 7 episodes, you would have collected enough extra time to have a journalist get killed. That would have been interesting. Having a journalist killed in the midst of all this, that would have been great. That might have elevated this to the status of True Detective. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. And this scene, this is not... Oh, yeah. Yeah, where are you... Everlasting life. Maybe that's true. Where are you living? What's the real estate? If the real estate's in hell, and it's everlasting life, I don't know if I want that. If the real estate's in heaven and it's everlasting life, that's great. Notice he never specifies the place. He just says, you'll live forever. Live where? What's the space? What's my plot that I get? Where is it? Where am I going to live forever? On Earth? Living on Earth forever, you know, it'd be okay for a long time, but it'd probably get old. Maybe I'd be okay. But there's also other areas. And now, of course, we enter into the Jamestown cult shit where she's put rat poison in the wine. Duh. He's turned them into zombies. He's turned them into thralls. He's killing them in order to expel their souls and turn them into vampire shells, to zombies, to thralls. He's convinced them to drink something that will destroy their souls and turn them into thralls. That's essentially what's happening. To the thirsty I will give rat poison and my own piss. I put it in there just as a funny joke, so that when I watch you drink, it will make me loll internally. Of course he's not afraid his brain's been cooked by alcohol for fucking 20 years. Someone told him to drink turpentine, he'd probably drink turpentine. Fuck's sake. Yeah, vomiting blood's fine. God, the stock sigh sound effect, the whoa! I'm so sick of hearing that, man. Record your actors sighing in a group. You've got 70 or 80 actors in this room. Make some of them pretend to sigh. Don't use the stock sighing sound effect, man. Pay the extra $60. Pisses me off, man. It rips me right out of the narrative when they use the "ah" sigh sound effect. That's pathetic, man. That's cheap. Fuck you.
The body is dead, but soon it'll be a vampire demonic vessel for my intent.
Ooh, it's the Hat Man. But he doesn't have his hat on. The hats are off, guys. The brawl is about to begin. It's gonna turn into a Tekken fight between this guy and the fucking the fisherman. That would be so good. It just converts into a Tekken fight. Angels are supposed to be eyeballs in concentric rings. They're not supposed to be literal demons. This guy's not even hiding his appearance. I mean, this motherfucker is clearly just a demon. I mean, it's very blunt. It's very blatant. If he was a glowing eyeball with a bunch of glowing rings around it and everybody saw it at the same time so no one was hallucinating, then I might be like, okay, maybe you're an angel, but this is a very humanoid thing. It's a very ape-bound, material-bound, desire-bound, earth-bound, satanic thing. Very obvious. All they've done is put a nice robe on the fucker. Jesus Jews us. Disregard that comment, guys. He's obviously a Nordic Chad. You have to accept Neuralink. You have to have brain surgery. You have to accept the rape of your physical body in order to be truly saved. Yeah, I'm sure God would want to rape my brain in order to save me. That sounds legit, man. Again, I'd rather die behind the chemical sheds, you know. You try to revive me in the digital world, I'll come back as a virus. I'll come back as the Joker virus, and I'll do some very epic damage to that system. You try to bring me back? Good luck. Good luck, man. You kill me, you try to reconstitute my brain with nanomachines, whatever. I hope you do. You know what? I hope you try. That would be entertaining if you tried to do that. Because you don't even know who I am, do ya? None of you know who I am. You don't know my name, do ya? And I'm not gonna tell ya. Maybe I don't even know it. Maybe that's by design. Ah, God, I love this series so much, man. It's so, like, melodramatic. My son turned from Allah and he succumbed to Western degeneracy. Now I will join ISIS. This is such bullshit. It's such political crap. I wish it wasn't in this, man. You know what? If the whole island had been Muslims, this would have been better. Because then there wouldn't have been any racial tension type of shit. It wouldn't have been like, well, the Muslim and the Judeo Christians and baby. What a waste of time. What a waste. Just make it all brown people. I don't care. Make it the same race. Make it all Chinese people on the island. Make it Fallout 4. Make it so that the Americans died and the whole island is Chinese fishermen. Because then we don't have to deal with this bullshit, fake conflict, fake civil war crap. It's so tired, man. We're all tired of it. Stop it. It doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares about these fake, contrived conflicts between the races. It's not making us more economically productive. It's not making us more obedient. It's making us depressed, sick, and tired. Even the immigrants are tired of it. You think you're gonna ingratiate them with some kind of replacer, colonizer type of shit? Oh, the white people are gone. Now you're the new white people. You're not going to do that. It's going to fail. It's going to die. It's going to rot. Stop it. God, it's so stupid. It's so dumb, man. Woo! Oh, you missed his pineal gland. Sorry, you were a few inches off to the right. If you'd hit him in his pineal gland, we might not have another episode of this, but... Ooh, you just missed it, bitch. Too bad.
Bro, I'm faded as fuck. She shot me with pure weed. I've never done that before. Oh, I'm defeated. I'm so fucking defeated, man. My cannabinoids are all overloaded. I'm a psycho now. My left eye is totally destroyed.
How dare you rebel in Gaza against Israel? How dare you shoot somebody? How dare you rebel against our blood cult, satanic, freak, magician, fake, fucked grift? How dare you break our lie with truth? How dare you? How dare you interrupt our cat-brained schizo toxoplasm ritual? How dare you betray the Bene Gesserit? How dare you betray people who think they're God? None of you are. God is just God. And what happens, happens. What will be, will be. Your illusion that your will has some clout to affect reality, that's evil. That's what this series is trying to say. It's trying to say, if you try to be an epic, independent, total island-dwelling ANCAP, where each individual person is on their own little island, oh yes, you can. You're high as fuck. You're on shrooms. You're on weed. My God, I have a friend of mine who introduced me to shrooms, and when I took shrooms, all it did was it made me look at myself and go, here's what you need to do to improve. And when I did a bunch of weed, all it did was make me go, this is who you are. So maybe those substances aren't so bad, but if you force them on your subjects very quickly, kind of like legalizing weed in a rapid way, a lot of people are not going to respond the way that my friend and I responded. They're going to respond like this. They're going to go nuts. So now it's chaos, it's total death. It's basically Haiti in 2024. It's basically what's going on. They tried the COVID nanomachine subroutine of cannibalism in Haiti, and just to see how it would work out. And basically this happened. It's basically a predictive scenario for the Haiti situation, where people are literally eating each other out of nowhere. It's a very unprecedented thing. Maybe there's some cultural precedent for zombieism or cannibalism, but for it to flare up like it did, I don't know. Kind of seems like a contrived event, guys. Kind of seems a bit sus. Yeah, you can shoot me. Bitch, if she kills you and then grinds your head into a fine pulp and throws it in the ocean, motherfucker should have shot her in the head. Shot her multiple times. Why would you leave her to revive? Again, contrived, narrative-based bullshit. You should have taken her body. I would have, honestly, I would have forgiven this series for being gore porn if she had reduced her head to a raspberry pulp and then spread it around. Honestly, not even that. Just burn her body. Why would you not just burn her body? All you need is a lighter and some sticks. You're on an island with a bunch of trees. Why would you not just drag her out, cut down a tree, and set a fire? You've got candles all around you. It's retarded. Why would you not just burn this chick? God, this series fucking sucks at the end. It takes so many shortcuts just to complete its epic narrative. It's a good story, but the shortcuts ruin it. The details, the editing, the final polish, not being there and not being right is what ruins it. It's so sad, man. It's done so quick and so dirty. These people would not be that stupid. They would burn her. What do you do with a vampire? You burn them. At least they would have tried to put a stake in her heart. They didn't even do anything. They're like, oh, we have to leave right now for reasons. Do you really have to leave that quickly? Could you not just have the half dozen people in your little group drag her body out and then burn her? Could you not have done that? God, it's so fucking contrived, man. Series drops the ball, man. Drops the ball. Yeah, the scriptwriter plans and the viewers laugh because you've made a bunch of very obvious, pathetic mistakes in the construction of this narrative. And it's sad. Because you've tossed this concept, this narrative, this story into the sewer because the way you've portrayed it is so amateur that you've raped it. You've fucked it with amateurish portrayals. You have done a shit job. You have failed. You have disgraced God. Again, guys. Whew. That was a spicy episode. We're at the end. The credits are rolling, so I'm going to end things. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. I hope you're doing well personally. I hope your family and your friends are doing well. Don't take any of this shit too seriously. This is a very heavy show. It's dealing with a lot of religious programming that may or may not be good or bad. I don't know. I'm not making judgments. I'm judging the show. I'm judging it as a portrayal of these ideas. It's advancing itself as a portrayal of them. It's taking on those ideas. It's trying to preach about them, you might say. Even in a subtle way. Even in a way that doesn't seem like it's preaching. And I want to give that its due account. It needs its due attention. So that's the purpose of this commentary in part. But I do enjoy this series. It's flawed, but it does some good things. It does some things very well. It does some things that are very hard to do. And to be honest, we're going to have to do True Detective. Or, excuse me, we're going to have to do Deadwood at some point. Because Deadwood, I mean, the reason I'm anxious to do that as a commentary is I won't have anything to say because I won't want to talk over the dialogue. Because the dialogue is so goddamn good. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll do a shitty movie next, guys. Maybe we'll do something lighthearted. Maybe we'll do Lost in Space from 1998. Ooh. A little teaser for you. Anyway, I do hope your family and friends and you are doing well. Take some vitamins, drink some water, filtered water, and have faith. At first in yourself, because you are a creation of God, and if you don't have faith in yourself, and you're created by God, then you lack faith in God. You gotta have some faith in yourself. Just a little bit. Anyway, I love you guys. You're why I'm still here. To be real. All of you are why I'm here. Why I haven't left. So, chill out, have fun, and, as always, peace out, guys.